Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome back to FRAG-MENTAL. Thanks for joining me. I've come to this beautiful mansion house here in the middle of the Hertfordshire countryside. It's actually for an event run by the Fragrance Shop for National Fragrance Week. Whilst I'm here, I wanted to explore the grounds anyway, so I thought, why not do that with you? And whilst we're doing that together, I'll tell you about my spring fragrance recommendations. You up for that? All right, let's do it. I'm going to kick off this list with a brand new fragrance, and it's actually the fragrance I'm wearing today. It's Acqua di Gio Elixir from Giorgio Armani. This is the latest flanker in the Giorgio Armani line. I really like it. It's not a massively different version of the Acqua di Gio DNA. If you're familiar with the original or the Parfum or the EDP, you'll definitely recognize the Acqua di Gio smell. But this one, I think, is the most spring-like of all of them because there's some violet leaf in there. I think violet leaf is a note that just works really well. It's got a bit of a green, earthy quality. And in this fragrance, it's paired with a leather, and violet leaf and leather is a great pairing, as we know from Dior Fahrenheit. It gives this rugged, earthy, very masculine quality. So add that to the Acqua di Gio DNA, and I'm really enjoying it. And I gotta say, it's working perfectly on this quite fresh spring day. There's a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of cloud, but that's okay because it's a versatile fragrance that I think works easily all year round. It's a new one, I'm really enjoying it, and it's a spring recommendation. I don't actually know which way I was walking there. I was heading out into the countryside, into the middle of nowhere. Let's talk about Vetiver from Roja Parfums. The version I'm talking about is the Parfum Cologne because that's the one I have. It comes in the green bottle, and that really says it all. It's a green fragrance. It's very fresh and lively, a little bit zesty. There's some citruses in there, but there's loads of florals. For spring fragrances, I always like to choose fragrances that have quite a big dose of florals in there, and Vetiver certainly does. So it's green, it's zesty, it's bright, it's lively, very classy, but there's also some depth and complexity. There's oak moss. So this fragrance has weight and gravitas as well as that zesty liveliness. I think this Parfum Cologne version is a brighter, more citrusy, livelier version of Vetiver than the original. This is a fragrance that a gentleman would wear. You could wear this just walking around casually in the springtime or any time of year really. It's a versatile fragrance, but I think if you're dressed up in a suit, looking sharp, feeling very gentlemanly, this scent would be the perfect complement. Love this one from Roja Parfums. Just taking the weight off for a second. I found a little deck chair here at the back of the house, but the sun's right in my eyes, so I'll probably just keep this one brief. The next one is Dior Homme. It's the 2020 version. I love it for spring because it's bright, it's lively, but it's got this really dry, woody quality that I just think works so well at this time of year. I think it's Vetiver that's given it this dryness, but it's such a classy, sophisticated fragrance. And I feel like it's a very gentlemanly, manly sort of scent, but in a very modern way. To me, this is one of those quintessential modern masculine fragrances. Like a lot of spring fragrances, it's super versatile. I enjoy this more and more every time I wear it, and it would be one of my best recommendations for a spring fragrance. Look at this, found some lovely little fountains at the back of the house. And whilst I'm stood here, I'm going to tell you about a fragrance that I think is perfect for spring. It's one of my favourite niche houses. Reasons from Amouage, I think, is a beautiful fragrance. It's a little spicy up top. There's some cardamom and pink pepper. Quite green and aromatic in the heart. There's some pine, there's some cypriol, and then a little bit of earthy oak moss. Like most of Amouage's fragrances, it is very deep and rich and complex and very strong, but never overpowering, never in an obnoxious way. It's one of those fragrances, like a lot of spring fragrances, that mixes brightness with a depth and complexity. And cypriol, which I think is maybe giving it a little bit of greenness. This is a scent that you can wear any time of year if you want to make a statement, but I think it is perfect for spring. Of all the Amouage essences, Reasons is the best for spring. Fragrance that I think's been on my spring recommendations list for the last few years is a Tom Ford fragrance. It's Ombre Leather Parfum. I think this is more suited for spring than the original Ombre Leather. I love that fragrance, but it's a bit deeper, darker. I feel like the leather's just a bit stronger. It's a more dense fragrance. So for me, that one is an autumn scent. Ombre Leather Parfum is a little lighter. It's a little airier, a little greener, a bit drier. I think it skews a little more mature. Despite it being a parfum, it is not deeper, richer, more complex than Ombre Leather. I think actually, if anything, it's the other way around. So all the qualities, this bright airiness, this dryness, this greenness that Ombre Leather parfum has, just for me, works perfectly for spring. And actually, I'm here with the fragrance shop, and in their spring issue of their little magazine that they do, they asked me for my recommendation for a spring fragrance. It's actually Ombre Leather parfum. You can't go wrong with it. The Ombre Leather DNA is so likable, such a classy scent, very distinctive. It's show-stopping without being too much. So if you want a great spring fragrance that is going to tick all the boxes and it'll make you smell super classy, then I would go with Ombre Leather parfum. Just while I'm walking around these lovely grounds talking about my spring fragrances, I found someone that I know, and just standing outside her room at the back of the mansion house here, it's Clémence.
Hello. Hi.
It's quite good timing because the fragrance I was about to talk about next is Chanel Egoiste, and I believe you're quite familiar with the brand Chanel.
I mean, I've worked as a fragrance expert for the brand for few years, so I know my Egoiste. I absolutely love it. Like, it was always my favorite for men. Well, I like Pour Monsieur and stuff like this, but it has this very woodsy character, a bit rosy as well, surprisingly, but it's extremely tough, vintage.
A bit of modern in there as well. Would you say it's a bit more modern than Pour Monsieur? Or do you think Egoiste is more vintage?
I'm not sure now, because Pour Monsieur has an almondy touch. So I think it's a bit on trend.
Yeah. So we're saying Egoiste because it's gentlemanly, it's masculine, and it's a little bit vintage.
Yes, yes. And I think people that wear that are not afraid to get something that is not on trend and want like a great character and personality, you know, very patent, very tough, and that's appreciated.
I don't think I can add anything better to that. So thanks, Clémence. A little cameo for this little stretch of the video. Thank you. I'm sure you already know this, but tobacco is one of my favourite notes in fragrances, if not my favourite note in fragrance. Some of my favourite fragrances are tobacco fragrances, but sometimes tobacco can be quite heavy and dark and complex and not always appropriate for slightly warmer weather, which is sometimes what we get in the spring. But this fragrance is called Genius from Renier Perfumes, and it's a lighter, airier take on a tobacco scent. It's got everything I love about tobacco. It's got a little bit of that darkness, it's got sweetness, it's got a bit of warmth, but it's a little green, it's a little lighter, it's airier. It's a versatile fragrance that personally I could easily wear all year round. It works really well in the winter. I could even wear it in the summer. It's not dark, it's not complex. There's ginger in it, giving a real zing, a real lift. If you love tobacco in fragrances and you want a fantastic, really high quality, quite unique tobacco fragrance that I think excels in the spring, then you got to try Genius from Renier Perfumes. Oud can be quite a heavy note in some fragrances, and perhaps not a note that you would associate with a versatile scent that would work in the springtime. But I've recently discovered this one from the house of Balchaud. This is called Oud Guimauve. You can tell there's oud in there, but it's not a funky oud. It's not a stinky, pongy oud at all. I wouldn't even say it's that medicinal type of oud, but you can tell there's oud. I'm not quite sure how they've done it. There's oud in there, but it's not like most other ouds. And to balance this intense woodiness that it has is the note of marshmallow, which is what Guimauve means. So you've got this sweet, fluffy marshmallow texture. It's quite light and airy. Combined with the oud, what you get is a unique, sweet, woody fragrance that works well all year round. I just think that the characteristics this fragrance has makes it a perfect wear for the spring. That's Oud Guimauve from Balchaud. Quite a lot of the fragrances I'm talking about in this video are new ones because I didn't want to just go over the same old spring fragrances you've heard hundreds of times before. I wanted to give you something a little bit new, maybe some new fragrances that you've not yet discovered, but maybe after watching this video you might be inspired to go in a store and at least check them out. This is a brand new one. It's the latest flanker from Hermès. It's Terre EDP Intense. Definite Terre DNA in there, but there's also a very unique, unusual, slightly weird smell to it. I'm not quite sure what is creating this strange smell. There is a combination of coffee and licorice in there in the heart of the fragrance that you wouldn't necessarily expect in a Terre d'Hermès scent, but in the base there's an accord of lava and also stone, and the fragrance definitely has this sort of warmed up mineralic quality, and the closest thing that springs to my mind to describe this smell that it has at the heart of it is if you've ever, as a kid maybe, you've got two stones and you've smashed them together to try and create some powder, and things warm up so you get this sort of smell of heat and the stone mixed together. That's what I get from this fragrance. It's unique, it's something that you've never smelled before. It is unusual, it might take a little bit of getting used to. The more I wear it, the more I am getting used to it, but it's great that Hermès have taken a risk. We so often criticize designer brands for playing safe, for making it too mass appealing, too mainstream. The result is often a bland, generic fragrance. This is definitely not a bland, generic fragrance. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. It will be an acquired taste, but Hermès took a creative risk and you've got to give them kudos for that. Anyway, I'm enjoying it and I think it works really well in the spring. The fragrance I'm finishing with is one of my favorites from Creed. I've mentioned this, I'm sure, in spring videos I've done in the past. It's Royal Mayfair. They've recently rebranded and released the fragrance, but it's pretty much the same scent as the original one. I have bottles of the new and the original. And not only is it a scent that I think works really well in the spring, it is a very classy, sophisticated, I always say it's a Sunday scent. I think this environment, this place, a stately home, a luxury mansion in the country, I think, for me, is the perfect place to wear Creed's Royal Mayfair, preferably on a Sunday in the spring. One of the best from Creed. It's not for everyone, but if you've got the confidence to wear something a little bit different, I think you could really pull off Royal Mayfair in the spring on a Sunday. So there you go, that's my list of spring fragrance recommendations for 2025. We've had a nice little explore together of these beautiful grounds. We've even got some daffodils just starting to flower over here. They've not quite come into full bloom, but we've got daffodils in a spring video, and that's the important thing. I hope you enjoyed this video, a little bit different, just walking around these grounds. If you've tried any of these fragrances, drop them down in the comments, let me know what are your opinions on them. Like I said, I've tried to fit quite a few new fragrances in here, but new fragrances that I'm enjoying and that I think would be very appropriate for spring. If you like this video, you know what to do. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, bye.